Hi everyone. Might be a little bit late on this one, but I wanted to jump on this whole Adele situation because I've noticed that it's run on a couple of days now, and I just wanted to make comment on it. And I'm making comment not because I'm like, oh God, poor Adele, like she's my girl. No, it's not like that. It's more the fact that the term cultural appropriation it's something that needs to be dealt with correctly. And I'm concerned that if people think that this is examples of cultural appropriation, then it's just going to exacerbate already tense race relations, because it's going to create the feeling that, wow, especially if you're a white person living in Great Britain, like, wow, you really just can't do anything nowadays. Like, really, like you'll be blasted for whatever you do. You know, you can't be yourself in your own country. That's the vibe that it creates. That's the agenda essentially that it actually perpetuates. It's not an agenda that's actually assisting or creating awareness for issues that minorities face. If anything, it just exacerbates race relations and creates unnecessary tension by highlighting situations, calling it cultural appropriation when it's not. And I think it's another one of the situations again where the media pushes the agenda and then we end up discussing it. And that's the wrong way round, because most people are going to feel that because this is making headline news, and this happens a lot with the Muslim community as well, because the media have made this a headline news, then there must be just an overwhelming amount of black people who are really frustrated, really upset, really angry that Adele has appropriated their culture. That's what people are going to think. They're going to think that we are complaining so much that the media have just been compelled to commentate on it, you know? But actually it's the other way around. The media, they have driven this. They have pushed this agenda. They've created this agenda. And now we are all talking about it. They've reverse engineered it. And it's the wrong way to go about dealing with these types of topics. There is cultural appropriation, don't get me wrong. I'm arguing, however, that this isn't an example of it. Real cultural appropriation. And before we get into examples, actually, let's look at the definition of what cultural appropriation is. I've pulled it up here, and it says it's the adoption or co-opting, usually without acknowledgement, and that's the key term there, without acknowledgement, of cultural identity markers associated with or originating in minority communities by people or communities with a relatively privileged status. Now, even if you look at the Adele situation, cultural identity markers, she's wearing the Jamaican flag on her chest. Like, there's no confusion as to what identity she's trying to assimilate or showing appreciation to. There's no doubt. She has the flag of Jamaica on her chest. Cultural appropriation is if randomly one day Adele just started rocking Bantu knots. That's just her vibe now, and she doesn't make any attribution or any compliments to say, this is why I'm inspired by it. This is where it's come from. This is why I wear my hair like this. It's come from Africa or West Africa, and this is why I was inspired. This is what I saw. This is my story. Just to start randomly rocking Bantu knots, that would be cultural appropriation. Or we could argue, is that some form of cultural appropriation? But to be wearing carnival wear, that's not cultural appropriation. What is cultural appropriation? And what is dangerous about cultural appropriation? What's dangerous about cultural appropriation, and it is a serious thing, is that it doesn't enable the most important part of human civilization, enable to us to cohabitate with each other peacefully within cohesion, and that's the ability to learn from each other. Cultural appropriation removes the learning element. It creates a dynamic in which you are benefiting from a culture, benefiting from living within a society where the culture can influence, yet you are unaware of its influences. However, you may be aware of the negative aspects of that culture. That's dangerous because it doesn't allow balance. It doesn't allow just general people into society to acknowledge that actually, do you know what? There's good and bad to everything. And I'm lucky that I live in a society that I can benefit from being in an environment where all cultures are around me, and I can assimilate in some way, and I can take little aspects of this and pieces of that. And there may be some parts where subconsciously I'm just completely unaware of its influence, but I'm aware that it is influencing me, and I appreciate that. And I'm respectful of that. And I'm aware that I am who I am today based on those forces that I may be aware or unaware of. Cultural appropriation removes that line of thinking. It means you have all the benefits and you're not understanding where it's coming from, but you're only understanding perhaps the negative aspects of other people's cultures. And a clear example of that, or people that do that a lot, and this is a clear example of cultural appropriation, are the Kardashians. Kardashians have a global platform of wide reach where they can influence a lot of people and inform a lot of people of many different cultures. But what they do is they rock all these, they are completely inspired by black culture, by the way. They rock all these looks, new hairstyles, new swag, new flavor, new style in clothing. It's completely black inspired. And what they do is they just make no mention of where the inspiration came from. It's like they pretend they had a dream. Like, I had a dream. I just dreamt this hair and I woke up and I was like, I just got to do what I dreamt. I was inspired by myself and I just do this hair and now I'm done. Look, like, this is my hair. Like, no, you wasn't inspired by your dream. You stole other cultural influences and made it seem like you created it. That is cultural appropriation. That's showing no acknowledgement, no tilt of the hat, no ability to give your followers or your reach to make them aware of what part of Africa the hairstyles come from, or why they had their hair that way, or what type of clothing comes from this area, or whatever it is. There's no mention of it. It's just doing it and making it seem like it's your idea and then making a hell of a load of money from it. So your whole image, your whole profile, your whole status is purely on the basis of mimicking other cultures and presenting it as your own. That's appropriation. Adele's whole get-up, her whole profile, her whole rise to stardom, her whole popularity, everything is to do with British culture, nothing to do with black culture. That's not her MO. Like, she is known for being that proper British girl. That's why everyone loves her. She's proper British. She's the epitome of British. She's on a global platform and she's able to project herself in a way where we feel endeared to her because she is not pretending to be something else. She's not assimilating more towards American culture or anything like that. She's like, whoever she talks to, whatever interview she's doing, whatever music she's making, it's British. And that's why we love her so much. That's why there's a sense of pride when it comes to Adele. That pride and that love is not because of her association with black culture. She's not adopted or appropriated black culture whatsoever. Down to her music, it's very British, it's very English, like, think about it. Popular music today is basically black music or black inspired music, whether it's grime, whether it's rap, whether it's Afro beats, whether it's reggae music or reggaeton, or whether it's popular music that's clearly inspired by beats from the things that I mentioned before. That's kind of what popular music is right now. Whereas Adele's music, it's still traditional pop. It makes me think of when I was a kid and I'll be watching Top of the Pops, and number one or the top five in Top of the Pops would all be the kind of the style of Adele's music. That's what Adele is. She's quintessentially British in her style and in her branding. Her branding has not been at all in the endorsement or to be absorbing black culture and then presenting it as her own. So why they wanted to jump on her for this, I don't know. And when you even take into account that it's clear it was supposed to be Notting Hill Carnival, obviously Corona has disrupted all of that. But she was paying homage to Notting Hill Carnival. So she was wearing carnival wear, carnival clothing. Now, this is how illogical this headline is, to call it cultural appropriation. It's cultural appropriation, apparently, to wear Caribbean flag on your chest, or Jamaican flag on your chest, Bantu knots, Calypso clothing, to a Caribbean carnival. Like, if there's any appropriate time to wear Caribbean inspired hair, clothing, makeup, style, it's gonna be to a Caribbean carnival. Surely that can't be appropriation. And what frustrates me the most is that if Adele was at another festival, let's say the Holy Festival, happens around all over the world, happens here in London, in the UK as well, where we have the Festival of Colour. If Adele was wearing pure Indian traditional get-up, paying full homage to Indian culture, nobody would be calling it cultural appropriation. No, there'll be no headline saying Adele appropriated Indian culture. It'll be completely used in a different way. Like, wow, look at Adele completely embracing Indian culture. Look how amazing she looks. Look how much she's embracing the culture. And it will commentate and discuss the beauty of Indian culture. And instead of doing that in this instance for Caribbean culture, it wasn't discussing the beauty of Caribbean culture. It was just discussing how apparently she's appropriated it. And again, all this does is it creates this feeling, inaccurate feeling, that black people in general have an issue with white people embracing our culture. Like, you can't do anything when it comes to our culture. Stay away. Don't wear anything that we wear. Don't have our hairstyles. Don't have this. We don't have a problem with people embracing and appreciating our culture. We want to. That's what life is about. It's about sharing who you are with everyone else and taking the best from everyone to find a best way to live with each other. That's what life is about. We don't have a problem with white people or any ethnicity or any background or culture embracing African or Caribbean culture. We don't have a problem with that. We have a problem with people taking it and not acknowledging it, living in a world where we're pretending that there aren't black inventors, there aren't black engineers, there aren't black scholars, there aren't black scientists that have pushed the way we live as a society, who haven't contributed significantly to the society we live in. And then you take into account our music, our style, our food. Like, that's what we have a problem with, that we hear in the headlines all the negative things that the media want to push for their agenda, but we're not hearing about the net positive influence that we have on society. That is what we're frustrated with. We're not frustrated with white people overall, or, like I said, any other culture embracing black culture. Of course we don't have a problem with that. But when media constantly only push news headlines of this nature, it's going to create that feeling that as a white person, you better not have that hairstyle, or you better not put on those clothing. You better not act like this, or fall in love with the culture, because black people have a problem with you. That is not true. That's fundamentally inaccurate and untrue, and it's pushing a false narrative. What needs to happen is the real people that are appropriating the culture, that they are held accounted for, so that we can really understand what cultural appropriation is. And again, what frustrates me even more is that Notting Hill Carnival, if you understand the origins of Notting Hill Carnival, then you understand that what Adele's done is essentially the spirit of what Notting Hill Carnival is all about. And if you don't know, I'm going to tell you in a very short snapshot, like the shortest snapshot I can give. It's the fact that in the 60s, there was huge race riots taking place. And one of the ways in which to enable people to see what black culture is all about, what Caribbean and African culture is all about, was they created a carnival for people to see our love for music, our passion, our dance, our clothing, our style, our food. so that people could embrace and fall in love with the culture and start to see our similarities and not our differences. That was what it was all about. So to have a white woman, a white English woman, she might be Scottish as well, I'm not too sure, but white English woman dressed up in Calypso Carnival wear for Notting Hill Carnival, that is literally the epitome of what the carnival was all about. That's why it was created. So for you to call it cultural appropriation shows your ignorance to Notting Hill Carnival, let alone your ignorance to what cultural appropriation is. I don't want to keep rambling on about points and going over. I think I've covered the points I've wanted to cover. I'm sure some people might agree, some people might disagree. Look, you can't please everyone, but essentially what's important for me to stress is that I don't genuinely believe that this is what black people are complaining about. We've got way too many things on our agenda that we are truly trying to address, and Adele dressing up for Carnival isn't one of them. So if you're thinking that it's black people that are frustrated or annoyed with white people dressing up or appreciating our culture, that's not true. Love our culture, appreciate who we are, but just make sure you acknowledge it and educate yourself on what we have brought to society, so that when people do spout ignorance, you can correct them. Or more importantly, you don't absorb that ignorance and start to believe it and regurgitate it yourself. All right, I'm done. Thanks.